can start with the session. So let's first understand the enrolled agent. What is this course? What is this US tax license? What is the overview? Well, this is a slide which you will get with your with the email which is sent by Shivangi Tandon Academy to each and every one of you. Okay. So I'm just walking you through this to get the understanding what is EA, because many people have been asking me the question, what is the scope of being enrolled agent? Can we get job in the companies and all? Uh, who has joined through Galaxy?
Yeah, hi, Shivangini, Rona here.
Okay, okay. No issues. So resuming this session, we'll just walk through the enrolled agent course, what it is, how many papers, how to crack each paper. So basically, in my academy, my target is to get everybody clear their paper. So I will not only provide you the live classes and the coaching and the book material. We will also plan your way to success, like how many times you can prepare, what topics are coming more in the examination, do a lot of questions on that. You should be, and how to crack the questions for each kind of technique. Even if you get a question which you have not read, but if you have any idea using the elimination method and other methods, you can still reach to the right answer. Okay, so we'll discuss all these techniques. EA certification or giving the EA examination is not all about only the study material, reading the books, solving the questions. It is much smarter now. There was an era old, like in 2013 or 2012, when people were giving the examination, it was pretty simple and they used to clear it easily. As the time has passed and demand for enrolled agent in India has increased, the international level, this EA demand has increased. So the paper has also become little difficult now. Even IRS put the questions, the topics which are based on the present scenario. How they prepare the enrolled agent paper, they do the survey with the existing enrolled agents in the US, that how was the last busy season when they filed the return, what were the topics, or what were the transactions they have seen more again and again, and based on those all data they prepare the exam paper for you guys. That is why your each testing window exam will not be same. In August month, we have dates open from 9th August to 23rd August. Okay. So in that window, the first 4 days when you get to see your paper one exam questions, it would be different pattern. Next 4 days, it would be different pattern. Okay. So based on that, you cannot say that somebody has given the examination on 9th August, he got so many questions in the paper similar way I will get. That doesn't work. You need to prepare on your own. You need to see what kind of questions you may have in the examination. Sometimes you may have all theory based, or sometimes you may have all numerical based. So we'll prepare for all these one by one once we complete our part 1 session. Coming back to enrolled agent, its importance has increased a lot. Everybody is demanding for EA. Lot of people in the US, they are trying to push their work to India because of the cost difference, but they're not able to do just because we do not have credential based people. Whoever is having credential, they're either working in the big four industry or they're already employed with the other companies. So we are looking basically people who are EAs who are available to pick up more work from the US. Okay, so we'll see what is this enrolled agent. Basically, some people say it is a certification, it is a license, and they get confused what it is exactly. To be very frank, EA is a license. It is a license which you get, with which you are authorized to prepare the US tax returns, and you can sign the returns. You can also represent the client in the US court whenever there is an income tax related issue comes. Okay. In the general language, when you want to understand what does the EA means, In Indian language, I would say we have income tax lawyers, right? We have CA who can prepare the return for us. We have CA who can sign the return for us. But if any time you get any scrutiny from the authorities, or if you have any kind of notice from the authorities, you will definitely look for an income tax expert who can help you to answer these notices, right? So basically, EA is income tax expert or lawyer in the US who help people to understand how to prepare the return, how to save the maximum taxes by doing a good tax planning for clients, representing the client in the court. So you have 3-4 tasks in your plate when you are an EA. Out of all these tasks, preparing the return, signing the return is much easy. If you have the knowledge of the enrolled agent or US taxation, you can prepare the return easily. You are aware of the software usage, you can prepare it. You can sign it taking the responsibility that yes, I have prepared the return and I'm ready to take any responsibility. The toughest part of being EA is representing your client in front of IRS. As we know, Indian tax authorities, they are very strict. When you get a notice, you get panic and you look for somebody who is very expert and who can save you without going for any further drilling, right? Similarly, enrolled agents are the tax experts who represent you in front of court with all the preparation in case of any kind of audit, collection or appeals, where they save you from getting into more trouble. Any kind of notice audit comes from IRS, they will deal with the IRS. However, they will have a limitation. There all the this task will have a limitation. They can perform in front of IRS only for the work or task for which they are assigned by the client. Okay, so they definitely need the client's permission. So in this enrolled agent certification course, we all will learn when we are an enrolled agent of the US tax world, how we are going to deal with the client. In next 3-4 months, when you study for paper 1, 2 and 3, you will only get to learn that when you are a US tax expert, how you are going to deal with the client. So your mind should work or think in the process, being an EA, what is your situation, or this is the situation, how you're going to react or how you are going to respond to the condition. Same way you have to solve the questions in the examination. Paper 1, paper 2, paper 3. IRS, or I would say the questions you will see in the examination will be always condition based. Like they will give you, there is a couple, John and Jill, they have this and this US tax issues, how you are going to advise them. And you have 4 options because all the questions are multiple choice question. There is no case study based question. So you will see that, being an enrolled agent, this is your client, how you're going to respond to your client. So for each question solving, the only key is you have to think all the way, you are an EA, this is your client, what should be your response here? Accordingly, your most of the questions will be solved. And this is the technique which is most applicable in the part 3 paper, because part 3 is basically all about theory. Okay. So in the part 3 paper, for each question, you have to think that I am an EA, this is my client, stuck with IRS, got a notice, what should be my roles and responsibility now to tell him how to come out of this. Okay. So we have got to know everything about the enrolled agents, what they are, how they can perform, what are the tasks they do. This is basically a license from the US Department of Treasury, not the IRS. We know a lot about the IRS. We talk a lot about the IRS. However, IRS itself has many departments which work for different tasks. Revenue department work for the revenue collection. Similarly, US Department of Treasury basically work for the US tax forms or enrolled agent tax related license and certifications. If you guys have a look on any of the US tax form, basically we are reading here about the part 1, right? So part 1 paper is all about the form 1040, where we can learn how the US individual can prepare their income tax returns or file the income tax return, right? Any US tax form, when you open, you guys will see Department of Treasury Internal Revenue Service is written at the top of the form, right after the form name. This is because the tax forms, tax laws, any enrolled agent license, anything related to tax rules and regulations, license, form changes, form preparation, this is all the task of Department of Treasury. Okay, so that is why EA license is given by Department of Treasury. This license is federally known. Many people have asked me if we have to go with the state level and all. No. CPA is a license or certificate which is identified at the state level. Okay. But EA is a license which is applicable at the federal level. So with an enrolled agent license, you can work in any state of the US. Your work profile will not be limited. Okay. In the general language, how the US taxpayer will understand what is EA? As I told you, for us, if we have an income tax accountant or lawyer. Similarly, for the US taxpayer, getting an EA means getting somebody who can discuss the tax matters with IRS on behalf of them, who can respond to IRS in the legal language for all the questions, or basically who can make them also understand what are the tax jargons used in the notice. It is in the easy language, I can say EA is a person who is a mediator between IRS and the common public, who convert all the tax technical language into the easy one to understand the common public, and who also convert the common public's language into the IRS understanding. They're using the tax jargons, code sections, because you cannot respond in the simple language to IRS notices once you get them. It should be in the particular tax professional language. If anybody has any question, please unmute yourself and you can ask. Next is, what are the advantages? As I told you, CPA, attorney, they are licensed by the state, so their work profile is quite limited. However, EAs are federally licensed, so you can even reside in the Texas or any other state. But once you have this license, you can practice in all over in US, all over America. Okay, and this is the highest credential awarded by the IRS in the US tax field. So, like CPA is the highest credential in the US audit field. Similarly, enrolled agent is the highest credential in the US tax field. Beyond this, there is no other certification which anybody would need to prepare the returns or to sign the returns. However, if you go for a specific field to do the tax work, then you may need to go for some certification or some extra knowledge. For example, if you only want to work for the insurance client, insurance company's tax return, you need to study about the insurance company's tax laws. Okay, like we say financial services operations, FSO. So if you go for financial service organizations like banking, insurance, mutual fund, investment firm, and you prepare their tax return, you may have to go with the different set of tax laws more in detail, more in depth. But EA license, with that you can prepare the return of the common public and the common organizations as well, like general corporations, partnerships, S corporation, trust, tax exempt, you can prepare their all return. So with this license, your client base will be very vast. Okay. How do you become an enrolled agent? By giving the 3 examinations. I think I'm not missing any slide. Yes, I missed the slide of scope. Scope is enrolled agents are also known as America's tax expert. With this one license, you get expertise in all the fields of the US taxation. You get to know how to prepare the return for individuals. You get to know how to prepare the return for the business firms. And last, how to represent the client. Okay, here one more thing. When I say enrolled agent has unlimited earning potential, this means you can work for various tasks and get paid for each task differently. Like being an EA, when you prepare the return, you get paid for preparation. When you sign the return, your charges are quite higher, because by signing the return, you are actually informing IRS that you are taking the responsibility of each number presented on the return. Okay, little bit of risk involved. Any notice comes, any question comes, it is you who is going to answer. Okay, next is third task is representing your client, replying to the notices. So each task get you paid differently, and representation is highly paid, because there you directly deal with the IRS people or attorneys. Okay, so that is why it has an unlimited earning potentials. You may practice full-time or part-time. I, being an EA, is working for part-time. I do have couple of clients directly from the US. I prepare their return and sign it and file it. But yes, since I'm settled in India and I have no more to travel to US, so I do not take any responsibility of representation. Okay, so if at any point any audit comes or representation is required, I can definitely respond to the legal notices of IRS while sitting in India. But when it comes to responding to the or coming for the representation, we definitely need to look for people who are already in the US and who can take this task. There are many people, many enrolled agents who only take the representation work also. Okay. Enrolled agents can start their own business. A lot of people from India is coming in this field to get up there, settle their own companies and fetching the client base from the US. From the Ahmedabad, many companies have got registered and opened the working in the profile, and even in Delhi. So if you check on the various job portals, small scale firms are there which are specifically looking for the enrolled agents or the US tax experts who can help them while preparing the returns. How do you become an enrolled agent? Obtain a preparer tax identification number. PTIN is very much important. Any one of you, if do not having PTIN and planning to give your examination in August testing window, do apply for PTIN today itself. All the information is provided on the Shivani Tandon Academy LinkedIn page. Every step by step procedure is given how you can obtain the PTIN, how you can apply for it. Do get it, because without PTIN you cannot go for the EA examination, and getting PTIN is not very it's not a quick task. It might take a week time. So if you are planning to give your examination, just get the PTIN. PTIN is not free of cost. You may need to pay $35. It will be applicable for a year. Then apply to take. After getting your PTI number, you can definitely book your seats for enrolled agent examination. So there are 3 papers which you have to clear in this EA course. First one is individual tax return. That is the information how to prepare the return of US individuals. Basically, it is all about Form 1040, which we'll be learning in our first part 1. Your part 1 paper is all about this Form 1040. All the questions would come on this form. So in this part 1 session, we'll try to understand this form completely. That how each and every line matters, what kind of items are represented on every line. Then we have part 2. Part 2 is business tax returns. Part 2 is all about the return preparation of business entities, like the tax knowledge of corporate tax returns, corporations return, then partnerships return, S corp return. Basically, the kind of business firms a US country has, and how many kinds of firm they have, and how to file for tax return for each kind of firm, because the rule for each firm is different. Last one is representation practice and procedure. So your the third paper tells you how you're going to represent your client, what is your practice limitation, and what is the procedure to maintain your license. It's not that easy. There are some rules, there are some ethics, there are some responsibilities which you have to fulfill when you have an EA license and you are into the field of representation. Once you clear all these 3 papers, you can immediately apply for the enrollment. And with the enrollment form 23, you can get your license, but it would not be given to you immediately. It might take 90 days time period when you receive your license in hand. Okay. And definitely the EA license is a lifetime license which will be with you for lifetime. However, to maintain this license, you have to do some CPRs. CPRs means continuing education hours. So in every 3 years, you have to renew this license, and you have to complete 72 hours of learning, which will be reported to IRS. So how this works? This is basically 72 hours of webels you have to do. So we all know that tax laws get changes every year, and you are renewing your license in every 3 years. So how would you tell the IRS that you are all updated with the present tax law and you are into the, competence with all the rules which are applicable for current years? How would you tell it? How IRS can track it? This is the way they will track. So in next 3 years, once you're in EA, in next 3 years, you have to do lot of web learnings. With each web learning, you will provide your enrolled agent license on the online, that you are joining this web learning with this license number. The moment you provide your license number for the webel, the webel's credits will be credited in your account, which is there in the IRS. In your PTN account itself. You will create your PTN account, it will be credited there. So in 3 years, IRS will get to know, okay, this person has done 72 hours of study. So he is all prepared with the next, renewal of license. If you miss to do this, you may be into trouble that you are not going to, you are not eligible for the renewal of license. Okay. For webels, you can check on the IRS website. Many US universities are providing with the webels, and all the webels will be on the current tax law changes only, which you have to do. And you will get 2 credits, 3 credits, 6 credits like that, and you can add it to your account every year. 72 hours is divided into 3 years. So it is not in 1 year, it is in 3 years time period. EA examination, currently the fees has been revised to $185 for each examination. Okay, so exam is in Indian currency, it would be somewhere around 14 to 15,000 for each one of you. Then each paper. So apparently you will be investing somewhere 45,000 to 50,000, 48,000, somewhere 45 to 48,000 in the E examination. And then once you get the license, you can earn it easily within a year time period. And if you get a good client, you may earn it within a month time period. Because to be very frank, in the US tax world, a simple individual tax return preparation signing is charged for around $300 to $700 depending on the complexity. If your client is really complex, or if your client is coming at the last moment, the charges are just double. I'll tell you how it works. Like the tax return filing date for the last year, this year was 17th May 2021, right? So lot of discussion was going on the different portals. So if the client is coming to you with the tax return preparation work on somewhere 2nd of May, charges are comparatively less. But if the same client is approaching you on 8th May or 10th May or somewhere on 12th May, or if with the last moment entry of 14th May, 15th May that I have to file the return, I am not getting anybody, can you prepare my return? The charges are much higher. People do charge $1,600 to $2,100 for one return preparation. Doesn't matter if it is simple, that is the cost. If it is complicated and require a lot of form filing, a lot of complications, the charges may get double up. Okay, so how this, I am just giving you the idea that how this field is working, because many of us having no information on the enrolled agent license importance. Many of us are not having the idea of US market, how it works. So since I had that information, I'm just passing it to everyone so that people get to know that how much you can earn in this field once you have an EA. It's just that getting a client base, that is also not a big task nowadays on various, social media portals. I'm telling you, Facebook, Indeed, you can approach the people once you have this license, and you get paid hourly as well as task based also. So once you get your client, you can start from there, and once you have your client base, you can go with long run. Okay, so this is how the EA license, fees schedule works. Then location for the testing center, you can check on the Prometric. Currently only two locations are open in India, that is Bangalore and Delhi. People from the other locations, I would say book for the exam seat, but do not book your traveling expenses. Traveling tickets and all, do not book it, because we are seeing the condition in India right now. And if COVID comes back with the third wave, we might get the testing window cancelled. Okay. We have seen how the 12th examinations are cancelled by the government. Similarly, if the COVID is impacting a lot, we may have to see this, cancelling of the testing window. So do not book your traveling expenses, tickets, just book the exam seats, because if it is cancelled, at least you will get the refund of that from the IRS. Okay. How we offer you enroll agent course in our academy? It is 3 to 4 months time period. Basically it takes 4 months, because we go with the flow, like completing your part 1, in between giving you the mock test. Sometimes it's like, weekends we are completing the courses, and weekdays I'm giving you 10 MCQs to solve. And once you solve those MCQs, we can discuss that in the classroom before we start with the next topic. Okay. So it takes 4 months time period. It is only 3 papers, single level examinations, 75 plus hours of live and virtual classes over the 14 plus weekends. This is not limited to this. As I told you, once a student is always a student. So you get enrolled with us, you take your part 1 classes. If you are not clearing your part 1 classes in this testing window, you will get to clear it in next testing window. Okay. So next testing window. So I do have my students connected with me who are, who joined my course 2 years ago. They're still in touch with me. They keep on pinging me that I'm booking my, part 2 examination. They have cleared their part 1, and they're like, I'm booking my part 2 examination for August month. So how do I prepare it and all? So I get them, because end of the day, they got enrolled, they pay the fees, but they couldn't get the examination because last year window was not open and COVID was impacting a lot. This is not their, mistake. So why should I go beyond the limit and ask them that no, this year law is changed, so I'll give you, you have to pay the money again. That is not a genuine work, right? So once a student is always a student, you get 2 to 3 years time limit to come back, sit in the classroom, take the classes, and then prepare for the examination. It's an open classroom. Once you're registered, you can ping me any time that I'm giving my part 2 examination or part 1 or part 3, and I want to go with the classes once again. Though video recordings will be provided to you, but if you want to go with the live session once again, you can definitely join in and prepare well for to clear the examination. Main focus is prepare you in a way that you clear the paper in your first attempt, and this is what we have done in the previous year, and we got our students clear the part 1 paper. High quality study material. Yes, the study, as I told you, worked on this study material in last 4 to 5 years very, very deeply. So try to convert each, even if IRS publication information is picked up, we have tried our best that we are, converting into easy language so that everybody can understand. Each and every book has around 100 plus examples. So the best way is, when you want to understand a condition, go with the example. So similarly, for every condition, for every topic, on the every second page of the book, you will see there is an example. So we have tried our best that we put maximum examples in the book so that anybody can read the book himself and understand. Okay. Then we have MCQs involved in the book itself. After every chapter, you have MCQs. Around 30 to 40 MCQs based on the complexity of topic is included in the book. Test bank is there. Questions. How do we get the question? We do have the questions based on the previous year examinations, and the kind of feedback we receive from the people for these EA exams. Okay, previous EA exams. So this is all about EA. Anybody has any questions, or else we'll start with the next session. Asked in the examination. So we'll be studying about the part 1 paper here, and we'll walk through the form 1040 to see how the how we are going to study the part 1 paper, or the part 1 paper first topic which we are covering today is the main topic which is surely asked in the paper. You will see around 5 to 7 questions on filing status and dependents topics. We'll be covering filing status today. Okay. So first let me get you on this form 1040. What is this? Like in India, we file our income tax returns. We have form 1040 for US individuals. Okay, for anybody who thinks that US tax law is very different and very difficult to understand, it is not. With each concept of US tax, you can surely connect with the Indian taxation. Anybody who's having the Indian tax idea, you can easily connect the topics of US tax with the Indian taxation and understand it easily. Okay, so don't take that it is another word tax jargons or another word tax information. It is very much connected with the Indian taxation. Okay. So like we have this form 1040, this is for this is filed by the US individuals. The first thing you will notice on this form is filing status. Why this filing status is very much important, why it is so much important to understand the filing status of your client, and what is this basically filing status. Filing status actually tells you the information about the client's current status, whether your client is a bachelor, is a married, is a divorcee, is a widow, or is married but still filing a separate return. Okay, so this actually gives you the idea about your client's present marital status, how it is. Why it is important to understand for the tax return? It is important to understand for the tax return because based on the client filing status, they will have the income tax rates and income slabs to follow. For each filing status, there is a different tax rate and different income slabs. Based on that, they will get the tax calculated for their income. Okay. So in US tax law, we have 5 filing status. Okay. The 5 filing status is, first one is single. Single means any bachelor who is earning well and filing the return. Next is MFJ. MFJ means in the US tax law, if the return is filed by a married couple, they are supposed to check the box of married filing jointly, and husband and wife both income will be combined on this one single form 1040. Okay, so unlike India, we have husband and wife earning separately and reporting the income on the tax return separately. In US, we have both the husband and wife combined income reported on one single form 1040, and their filing status is known as MFG. Third filing status is MFS, married filing separately. Married filing separately means you have a couple who, as per the law, they are supposed to file the return in a combined income. However, the husband and wife, they found that filing these separate returns will give them more tax benefit. So they decided that we'll opt for MFS status and will file a form 1040 even when we are married. And then they have to check this box, married filing separately. With this box, IRS will immediately get to know that this couple is not combining their income on one single form 1040. They are filing it separately. Okay. This is a filing status which is least used in the US taxation, because many of the deductions are not allowed for this tax filing status. Many of the credits are not allowed for this. Or in a short, in simple language, I would say, this is a tax status which will not give you much benefit on the deduction part. Okay. Next is HOH. HOH means anybody who is unmarried, like a single or a divorcee person, and they have dependents staying with them in the house. Okay, so like we have individual person or we have a divorcee, but they have either child is staying in the home or either parents or other relatives are staying in the home and depending on them, then they get HOH status. Head of household being informing the IRS that I have some people who are depending on me residing in my home, so I should get a benefit of their dependency. Last one is qualifying widow. This is for the people uh, who got the widow status in the current year. Okay. So we'll understand these five filing status now through the slides. Next is, I'll just walk you through the form before we move to the slides. Next is general information. We have to provide the client name and their SSN. SSN is very much important. SSN is very similar to like PAN card number in India. Like when we want to file the return, we have a PAN card number. So in US, we have SSN, Social Security number. You must have SSN when you're filing the return. Okay. And if you are from India and you are filing your US tax return, you may not have SSN because SSN is only for the US residents. So what you will get? You will have ITIN, Individual Taxpayer Identification Number. Okay. So you will have ITIN when you are a non-US resident and you are filing your US tax return in with IRS. Okay. Before I go ahead, I would always request when you come to the classroom, get a notebook and pen handy so that there are many things which we discuss in the live classroom which you might not see in the books and in the other portals. So keep noticing that, keep writing those points in your books. Okay. One second, somebody is pinging me. Yeah. Okay, Shivas. So next, if you're filing a joint return, you need to inform the spouse information. When you are married and filing the joint return with your spouse, you have to give the spouse information, your home address, city, state, zip code, everything you have to give. If you are a US person, you will be providing your foreign country name and your, foreign address if you are residing in the foreign for longer period. Okay, virtual currency information, you have to say yes and no, not much is required. Standard deduction, this information you have to provide whether you are a dependent on somebody else's return or a spouse, or if you have a dual status. This we'll be discussing later. Today's class will be more focusing on the filing status. But yes, standard deduction is very important because this is a automatic deduction amount provided by IRS to each resident. Okay, against all your income, whatever is reporting on the return, there is a standard deduction, fixed amount of deduction automatically given to each US resident based on their filing status. That is why I say filing status is very important. Filing status decides your tax rate. Filing status decides your deduction amount as well. So identifying the right filing status for your client is very important. It actually changes the entire return if you are opting the wrong filing status for the client. Okay. Then you have dependents information. You have childs who are depending on you for their education and food, your parents, your relatives who are staying in your house and depending on you, you can provide their information. Why it is important? In the US tax law, when you say that these many dependents I have, for each dependent you will get a fixed amount of credit against your tax amount. So even if you are due to pay $5,000 taxes to government and you say I have 3 dependents, based on each dependent your $5,000 taxes would be reduced. Okay, will be reduced to a limit, not like 5,000 is coming to 500, that doesn't work, but it will be reduced to some $1,000. Okay. Next portion is income information up to from line 1 to line 9 will be reporting all the income of your client, whether it is coming from the wages, salary tip, or from the investments, from the other portals. whatever way. We call it as total income on line 9, or we call it as gross income. What does the gross income mean? Any one of you understand? What is the meaning of gross income? Gross income means earned income plus unearned income, or your active income plus passive income. Active income means where you are physically actively involved to generate the income, that is your salary, tip, wages, where you actually did some work to get the income in your hand, right? Passive income is what? You are not physically involved to generate any income. That means it is you have invested the money and you receive the income. That is your investment income. That might be your dividends, interest, your pensions, annuities, retirement funds, anything which you have invested and you are just getting a return on that. Okay, so that is your passive income. So from line 1 till line 9, you will be reporting all your gross income, which is known as active plus passive income. Okay. Next, we have from line 10 to 11, adjusted gross income. These are the deductions which are allowed by IRS to each US taxpayer. If you have made these expenses in the year, you can deduct it on your tax return and get to next level. Then we have standard deduction, itemized deductions to take. Either one of that we can take. Qualified business income deduction. If somebody is running into business, they can take the income deduction. And on line 15, you arrive at the taxable income. Okay. Taxable income, then you have taxes. These taxes will be calculated based on your filing status. What is the tax rate applicable to you? Then we have various credits, and down the lane we have payments to do. Like if you have made extra payment, you will receive the refund, or if you are overpayment, there is no extra payment in the US tax language. We call it overpayment. So if you have overpaid the amount, you get it refunded, or you may get it credited to next year as an advance tax payment. Okay. Okay. Another thing which I want to discuss here before I move with the filing status, guys, this form 1040, every year in your EA testing window, you will be seeing this. You are studying about the form 2020, and this is 2021 year. The testing window is open from May 2021 to Feb 2022. EA testing window is only open for 10 months in the US and for 4 months in the international countries. Okay. This was not there earlier until 2018, but since the COVID has come, the life has completely changed, and IRS has put a limitation on the international testing windows. So the international testing window outside US will be open only for the 4 months. That is June, August, November, and Feb. So you will have only 3 testing window now. August, clear your paper 1. November, clear your paper 2. Feb, clear your paper 3. And get your EA license before next tax season starts. This way, you have to plan and target your study. Okay. So for this testing window, which opens from May 2021, last year's US tax law will be tested, because the 17th May 2021, we have filed the returns of 2020. So based on that tax law, we'll get the EA exam. Next year, until next Feb, we'll have 2020 tax law. Next year, May 2022, we'll prepare for the 2021 tax law. Okay, so your exam is always coming on the previous year tax laws. That is why every year your testing part 1 paper gets major changes. It's get majorly effect. When will be the tax season? Shifa's tax season would be around when the tax filing date comes. Usually the tax filing date starts from the April 15 for the individuals. So during March and April 2 months, people will be very much occupied. That is why the March April 2 months testing window is also closed, because people are busy in their tax filing. They won't be coming for the EA examination at all, and system will also get updated for the changes in the tax law. Every year, part 1 paper gets majorly changed. You know, when tax law changes every year, part 3 has no changes at all. It remains same because part 3 is all about the theory of your roles and responsibilities. So nothing is added. Maybe some penalties are changing every year, which you can update. Okay. Then part 2 has minimum changes because corporate industry may have less tax forms to change or less tax rates to change. Their, you know, their concepts are stable. Major changes come on the part 1 paper because this is, you know, individuals return. So every year when budget comes, individuals get impacted majorly. Similarly, like in Indian taxation, we wait for the budget, and when we see the budget, there are these changes for this financial year, on those changes on financial year, and then accordingly we file the return, right? Similarly, in the US, the part 1 paper is something which is majorly changed. Previously, until 2018, we used to say that part 2 is the lengthiest paper. It will take a lot of time to cover. But since the time has changed and TCJA Act has introduced by the Donald Trump, part 1 is no longer smaller than part 2. Both are equal now. So part 1 course is also extended a lot. Because of that reason, part 1 and part 2 takes equal time to get completed in the course. Okay. Before I start with the filing status, anybody has any questions, guys? Okay. Just give me a moment. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So next is filing status and dependents. We'll learn about it. And why I was focusing on the filing status so much, guys, you can see it here. These are the tax rates. Okay, these are the tax rates of the different filing status. MFJ, married filing jointly and surviving spouse, basically means qualifying widow. Okay, they have the different income range and their tax rates are different compared to single married filing separately and head of household. Okay, so there are 7 tax rates in the US tax law. Okay, earlier there were around 5, now it is 7. There are 7 tax rates in the US tax law. So 10%, 12%, 22%, 24%, 32, 35, 37. I would not ask you to remember these form numbers or percentages. Sorry. So yes, so these 7% of tax rates and these income range, this schedule, please do not get scared. You do not need to remember this because in the examination, this will not be tested at all. Because even IRS knows you have part 1 paper has a lot of limitations, amounts to remember. So this table is not required to clear your paper 1. Okay. But yes, it is provided here just to get you clarity that how the filing status impact a lot. So how we when we get a client to prepare the US tax return, what is the first thing we will do? Being in this industry, which is very sensitive profile, any single or small mistake can lead you into the penalties. What is the first thing you will do when you get a client? First thing I would do, I would ask my client, provide me your previous year filed return copy along with the current year financial statement, which is your P&L, which is your balance sheet, which may be your trial balance also. Okay, whatever the information you have. But do provide me your previous year filed return. That is known as preliminary work. Until and unless you look into the background information of the client, like how the previously return was filed, whether there is a return, overpayment coming to current year, or whether there is any mistake on the previous year filed return, which may impact current year filing. You definitely need to check it so that you are on the safer side, because when you get a client, you do not start work directly. You will have to sign an agreement with the client where you clearly mention that you are only responsible for the mistakes made on the current year return, or you are only responsible for the mistakes which are known to you. Now it is completely depending on the client. If they are not disclosing the entire information on you, you will be on safer side and their client will face any penalty from the IRS. This happens. I had a client last year, 15th October, we filed the extension. For April 15 is the deadline for filing the individual tax return form 1040. Okay. Now we filed the extension and we got to know, like, we have an extended file return. Extension is given for 6 months. So we have an extended file return to file on October 15. October 15 daytime, when I'm filing the return, I was all done with the return because my client provided the information at the later date and all the things were done, and I was about to just hit the e-file button, and I just called him to ask that, okay, everything is done, you have signed the return, I have signed the return, I'm going to e-file, are you sure we have enough, we have placed all the information on the return? Right before hitting the button, client said, I have a company in the US, in the Georgia, and I did not report it on the return yet. Do I need to report it? And I was like, okay, is the company running the business? Does it have any source of income? He said, yes, it has losses. Whatever it is running the business, it has losses. You must need to report it on the return. Immediately, we, drop the plan of filing e-file return. And I told him clearly, since you are disclosing this information at the last moment, there will be a penalty from the IRS and you will have to face it. And he was like, he had to agree. There is no other option, right? So by this example, I wanted to tell you guys that when you work in this field, you have to do a lot of background work and make your plate always very clean. Okay, when you present your return in front of IRS, you should be, making things very clear to your client and IRS both that you are only responsible for the numbers presented on the return here. You are no more responsible for any information which is not provided by client and which should have been filed along with the return. In such cases, IRS will directly put a penalty on the client for the avoidance of tax law, but EA will be on the safer side. So basically, this profile is quite sensitive, so you have to be always very attentive. This was the story behind the preliminary work. Before we begin collecting a lot of data from taxpayer, we need to do some preliminary work associated with the taxpayer. Definitely, we need to look into the previous year return, and we do need to check whether client needs to file a tax return in current year or not. Maybe your client does not have the enough income to report the tax return. Like in India, if I have a client, a female client whose income is within 3 lakh rupees, the exemption amount, she doesn't need to file the return. Even if she's filing the return, there is no taxes. Okay. So similarly, you need to check in the US whether your client income is coming up to the tax filing status or not. Okay. To answer this question, we need to get some information from client, like what is the gross income and what is the filing status. As I told you, if you have a client who is having a income less than $400 or less than the standard deduction amount, it is basically about the standard deduction. If your client is having an income less than a standard deduction, you should not be asking him to file the return, because what is happening, the client will report the income here on these lines, total income would be somewhere on here, then you get a standard deduction which is higher than your income, and your taxable income comes zero. Okay, it comes to zero. So IRS says if at all the standard deduction is higher than your gross income, or your tax rate does not allow you to file the tax return, do not file it. Do not waste your energy and time. Do not waste your other person's energy and time. Okay, so first thing is you have to check whether your client is eligible to file the return of the year or not. Does he earn the income? Does he have sufficient gross income? Does he really have that filing status to file the return or not? Okay, as I told you, standard deduction is a fixed amount. It is an automatic deduction amount which is given to each filing status by the US government. So if your gross income is less than these amounts, you should not be filing your tax return. IRS says no need to file the return. You can, next year you can just file the return when your income is higher than a standard deduction. But you may also file an election or an information form where you tell the IRS that why you are not filing the return of the current year, right? Just inform them, since my income is less than a standard deduction amount, I am not filing the return. This is example where we'll reach later. Okay, the examples we'll be reaching later. First, I want to complete the topic of filing status. Then we'll be coming to the example so that you can connect, because example is having some digits which you will be able to connect once you understand the filing status. Okay, when to file the return? What is the tax filing date of individual's return? It is 15th day of 4th month after the tax year. Most of the people in US, they follow the calendar year. Okay, when somebody is filing calendar year, what does that mean? What is the calendar year means? January to December, right? So January to December calendar year is followed by the taxpayer for their income received. So what is the return filing date? 15th of 4th month, that is 15th April. Suppose if somebody is not filing the calendar year, they're filing the fiscal year or financial year, and if somebody is receiving their income based on the fiscal year, like April to March, so when they will get to file the return, what is their return filing date? 31st March is the last day of the tax year for those people. So for their return filing date is 15th of 4th month. After March, start counting the 4th month. April, May, June, July. 4th month is July, 15th of 4th month. 15th July is the tax return filing date for the people who have followed the fiscal year or financial year to report their income to IRS. Okay, so it completely depends whether your client is following calendar year or fiscal year. This all is very important to figure out the small information of the return. So deadline is basically 15th April. However, if your 15th April is falling over the weekend or any national holiday, the return filing date will get extended to next working day. That is your maybe next Monday. So if your 15th April is Saturday or Sunday, your next return filing date would be Monday falling on 16th or 17th. Okay. Now we'll understand the filing status. There are 5 kinds of filing status we have. First one is single. Single filing status is applicable to any US taxpayer who is not married. I'm just writing the things in the bullet point so that you understand things. Unmarried means bachelor. Okay, somebody who is bachelor, they can opt for single filing status. Married but legally separated as of year end. Your financial status at the 31st December matters a lot. Whatever is your filing status on the last day of the year, that will be the considered filing status on the return. So if on 31st December you are bachelor, you will be filing as single. If on 31st December evening you got legally married to somebody, Your filing status for entire year is MFJ, married filing jointly, because last day of the year you are married, right? So you will be filing it as MFJ. If your divorce is finalized on 31st December, you are considered as married but legally separated for entire year, and you will have a filing status of single. Okay. Next, widow. Anybody who has been widow for the entire year from January 1st to December, entire year they are widow, they did not remarry, they will get a filing status of single when they do not have any child associated with them. Okay. So three conditions under the single filing status. One, when your client is bachelor. Second, if your client is divorced even at the last day of the year. Third, widow for the entire year and not having a child. Okay. These people get into the single filing status. If anybody has any questions, do ask, because we are going to talk about all the US tax concepts here, which is important. Based on the filing status, you will see around 5 questions in the examination. Okay, so this is important. Married filing jointly, I told you this status is for the married couples. Okay, even if you got married at the 31st December, you will be considered married for entire year, and for that year you will file the return with a filing status of MFG. Even if one spouse died during the year. So IRS says if your spouse is dead during the year and you did not remarry to somebody else, you will have a MFJ status, married filing jointly. Okay. So even if the spouse got get expired during the year or passed away during the year, the surviving spouse still get the eligibility to file the return as MFJ. Spouse died in 2021 before filing the return. Okay. Husband and wife both were alive all the year of 2020. Okay. And their return filing date is 15th April. Just before the return filing, somewhere in January or Feb, one of the spouses is dead. Their filing status would be MFG, because they're filing the return of 2020, and for the entire 2020 year, husband and wife both were alive. So their filing status is MFG. We always consider the filing status as of year end, that is 31st December in most of the cases. Okay. So if on 31st December, husband and wife both are alive, their filing status is MFG. Living apart but not divorced. If they are not divorced but living apart, they still get a filing status of MFG. Marital status is determined on the last day of the taxable year. The important points are mentioned here in the slides. When you go to book, a lot more is given in the much detail. Okay. So marital status is determined on the last day of the taxable year. As I mentioned, last day of the taxable year, most of the public, 90% population of the US is following the calendar year to file their return. So for the 90% public, it is 31st December as the last day of the taxable year when they file the return, which decide their filing status. If one spouse dies, joint return can be filed for the year of death. So IRS says during the year, if one spouse is dead, you still get the benefit of filing a joint return, and you will get all the advantages on your tax return. Okay. Any questions on these two filing status? Anybody who would like to say that I am not understanding, be very frank, ask your questions. See, it doesn't matter, don't feel that you will ask the question and what others would think. If you're not asking question, you're not learning. See, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
Yes.
Regarding point 3, that spouse died in 2021 before filing a 2020 return.
Right.
So suppose like a person is filing his return in the month of May 17th, and the spouse has expired in the month of January. Okay. 2021. So still can we go for MFJ?
Yes. You are
Okay.
asking for the death of May and return is filed in Jan next year, right?
No, I got confused with this. Like, uh, when should be it filed? Like, should be filed earlier before the death, right?
No. You can file your return filing date is 4th of 15th of 4th month, that is 15th April. Okay.
Mhm.
But in US, people are not sticking to that date only. Many people who are, planning their tax in a proper way, they start filing the return from the January itself. Like, 2020 year got ended on December 31st. Now January 2021, people start filing their return. They start preparing their return and start filing to government. They don't wait for the last day.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, another thing, anyone to everyone here, doesn't matter how many years experience we have or whatever it is, do not feel hesitated to ask the questions. During my 8-9 years tenure in EY, the only thing I have learned is ask the question. When we joined, we did MBA and then we joined the this job US tax profile. So this was completely a upside down field for us. Like nothing was related to the MBA study and it was completely new. So we got some US coaches assigned to us for our training. That time EA was not very famous. We did not do, if you do EA, you are already prepared for the US tax law, right? So we were on the board and we got assigned with the US coaches. The only thing, we were on the training for 3 months time period, guys. And in those 3 months, the only thing I got to remember or I got to hear continuously from my US tax coaches, ask the question. If you are not asking the question, you are not learning. You think I'm asking a question, the other person would think I'm a fool, I'm having so many years experience, how can I ask the questions? Don't think like that. Asking a question is enhancing your knowledge. Okay, so don't hesitate, ask the question. If you are not asking, you are not growing your knowledge, you're not growing at all. So that is what I tell to my each batch. Even I had people having 17 years experience. He was my student. And the only thing I taught him, he was very silent during the starting classes. And I actually called him and told him that you ask the question, you have doubts. And once he got comfortable, he started asking the question and he had many questions thereafter. So that is what I would say. When you have a question, do not feel hesitate, just ask it. Okay. So we
Okay.
got, yes, yes, Shpas, tell me.
No, no, I was just supporting you, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah. So we have two filing status here, single and married. Okay. By look, we understand single means unmarried bachelor, married means married couple combining the return. But once you read about the filing status in much detail, there is a lot of information comes. Single means bachelor, single means divorced person not having a child, single means widow person not having a child, widow for entire year. During the year, if your spouse is dead, you are having a filing status of MFJ. Okay. Previous year your spouse is dead and current year you are not marrying, you are single because you do not have a child. Okay. So there, a lot of complication or condition apply, that star comes with every filing status here, which you have to remember. Single means bachelor, divorced, legally separated, or anybody who is widow for entire year and does not have a child. If we have a widow having a child, the person will get a filing status of qualifying widow or HOH because there is a dependent on that person. Okay. If there is a widow, there is no child and she is not remarrying to somebody else, she is widow for entire year or he is widow for entire year. And they get the status of single. Okay. MFJ means married. If your spouse died during the year, if your spouse died next year before filing the return, if you are living apart but not yet divorced, if you got married at the last day of the year, right? All these conditions apply to MFJ. Next filing status is MFS, married filing separately. What happens when you're filing a separate, when you decide that even when I am married, I'll be filing a separate return? What happens then? Okay. What benefits you will get? What are the advantages you will get? For any return filing status, the best way is to do a proper planning. So if you think you are going to file MFS return, prepare your return following the MFS status and see if you have any tax advantage on this or not. Okay. If a married couple can choose to file two separate tax returns, there may be a benefit that they find it is resulting them less tax compared to joint return. Maybe one of the couple is having income in millions and other one is having income in lesser range, much lesser range. So in that way, combining the income means the less income person is also paying the taxes in the same bracket. The less income earned by the person is also taxed at the same income bracket as the millionaire person is having, right? So if husband is earning somewhere in $1 million and wife is earning somewhere only $10,000 to $12,000, there is a huge difference, and the huge difference in the tax rates, right? So what is happening? Poor wife, even she will have to pay tax on her income at the higher tax bracket just because it is paid by uh, them, paid by the husband, right? So what is happening now? The this one husband wife can decide that since my income is comparatively very less, let's file the MFS return so that I am paying at least less tax than the higher on yours. Okay, at least one of them will get a benefit on the tax side. This completely depends on decision of husband and wife. Okay, they can prepare the return in both the ways, like filing the MFJ return. They can prepare filing the MFS, compare both the returns and figure out which filing status is giving them more benefit and opt for it. In the general practice, we do not prepare the return in one shot and start filing it. We do a lot of background work, rough work we call it. So when I get a client, I do prepare the return with MFS status and with MFJ. Two 1040 I will prepare. And I will see which 1040 return is getting less taxes on the form. And then I will inform my client that if you file with this filing status, you will have less taxes. So go with this, go ahead with this. Okay. So being an enrolled agent, what is your job? Prepare the return with both the filing status, call your client, tell him about or explain him about the entire information, and then get a permission that what is the next step you can take. Without client's permission, you cannot take any decision on your own. Okay. When a taxpayer file a tax return as MFS, the taxpayer and the spouse each will report their individual income, deduction, credit, exemptions based on their different tax rate. Okay. So what will happen? End of the day, taxpayer and their spouse, they both will be responsible only for their individual income. They will not be responsible for other person's income or penalties. Okay. Their even penalty, tax, interest, everything will be based on their individual income, not on the joint income. Next filing status is HOH, head of household. Okay. When a single person filing status gets a dependent associated with them, they cannot file the single status, they will file the head of household. See, single filing status means no responsibility. No responsibility on your shoulder. You are only responsible for yourself. Like you are free from any responsibility, you will file the single filing status. The moment you have a responsibility on your shoulder, you get to file the return as HOH. So even when I am unmarried, but I have my relative staying in my home and depending on me because I'm arranging the grocery, I'm arranging the utility expenses for that person, I'm a HOH filing status. If I'm a bachelor and my parents are staying with me on my filing status, the parents are depending on me. They're staying with me and they're depending on me for all their medical expenses, living expenses. They definitely get a HOH. I definitely get a HOH filing status. Okay. So any unmarried person who provides more than 50% of the cost of maintaining the household for a child or for a qualifying relative, consider as HUH. Unmarried person may be divorcee or maybe um, this one, single person, bachelor. Okay. If they have spent more than 50% of the house expenses, maintaining household means you get the grocery, you pay the utility bills, you get the other medical expenses done, right? So if you are maintaining the household for a child or for a relative staying in the home, you get a HOH status. Condition apply is the person who stays with you should be staying with you for more than 6 months. Then only you get HOH status. So if you have parents who are only staying for 4 to 5 months with you in the current year, and then they move to their own house and they bear their all the expenses, you cannot claim them as HOH. You need to make sure parents or any relative who is depending on you should be staying with you for at least 6 months to get the HOH status on the return. Okay, so more than half year or more than 6 months is a very important condition for HOH filing status. These slides are already attached in the, not slides, sorry. The summary notes based on these slides is already attached in the book, which will be provided to you guys. At the end of the book, these information is provided. And I would definitely recommend that you can highlight those points in the book or on those summary notes and just revise this for the examination repeat sessions. Qualifying widow. One second. Gurdeep, when filing tax return only at this point, we can inform to IRS about the change status like married, divorce, death. You don't need to report with the death. You can definitely report, when you're filing the form 1040, you will be filing with MFJ because you are your spouse is dead in the current year, right? So you're filing this, but at the same time, you will write here, Mr. So and so is dead on such and such date. Okay, so if I say John and Jill is a married couple and they're filing the return with MFG, John died on 10th June 2020. So when Jill, being a wife, is filing the return for 2020, she will file as MFJ and she will write on the top, Mr. John is dead on 10th June 2020. Okay, she will write on the top with the PDF so that IRS gets informed. There is no other tax form or election which you require to file to inform the deceased person's information. The only best way is put a PDF line on the top of the return. That's it. Yeah. For divorce and all, you no need to provide the information that I got divorced because divorce is finalized on the state courts. This is a federal return. This will be filed to federal government. Okay. And divorce and all is finalized in the local courts, state courts, city courts, right? So no need to inform it to the federal government. Your filing status tells everything itself. Okay. Last filing status of the day is qualifying widow. Qualifying widow is the only filing status which is applicable to anyone, any spouse, who is known as surviving spouse. See, in a couple, there is a husband, there is a wife. Okay. Then one of the spouse is dead. We call it deceased spouse. The other person who is still alive and proceeding the life, they are known as surviving spouse. Okay, so there is a deceased spouse, there is a surviving spouse. Qualifying widow status goes with the surviving spouse when they have a child in the marriage to survive with. Okay, so there might be two conditions. Couple is married, they do not have a child, husband is dead, wife is there. In the year of death, they will file MFJ return. Next year, if wife is not remarrying, she is filing single filing status. Why? Because she did not remarry, she doesn't have a child responsibility from the marriage. Okay. Second condition, there is a husband and wife. Husband is dead. Sorry, there is a husband and wife and there is a child. They have a child. Okay. Husband is dead. Next year, current year, wife will get MFJ status in the death of year. In the year of death, she gets MFJ status. Next year, she will not file as a single, rather she will file as qualified widow. Qualified widow because she has a child from the marriage to survive with. Okay. If she is not remarrying to third party, she can continue with the qualifying widow filing status. This is the only filing status which is applicable for 2 years time period. Okay. This is the only filing status which is applicable for 2 years. After 2 years, the surviving spouse will get a status of HOH if she is not remarrying to somebody else. The moment she marries to somebody else, her status would be again married filing jointly. Right? When you are marrying somebody, your husband and wife both are alive, the status is MFJ. Okay, when you are not remarrying, you are just surviving with your child. After 2 years, you will get a status of HOH. For those 2 years, you are having a status of qualifying widow, and IRS will give you all the tax benefits of being married, similar to like you were married. Your tax rates will be equal to MFJ. Your deductions, your all the tax credits would be given to you based on the MFJ filing status. If you have a look at the schedule of the taxes here, see this one. Married filing jointly and surviving spouse, both are having same tax bracket here because MFJ and qualifying widow will have the same tax bracket. Okay. She is given the same benefits here. So these are the 5 filing status which I covered in the today's session. Since today's session was quite smaller, I wanted to keep it very crisp, small. I'm not overloading you with more of the information. From the next session, we'll go in much detail with the slides and much detail with the questions, question solving sessions. Okay. So don't want to give you an overload of those in the first class itself. Okay. So I'm stopping the topic here. If anybody has any question, please ask.
I think it was really a very good session to start with. And obviously, like we do not often see, even if we have work experience, then we do not see much of qualifying widow, the rules and everything. So it was a very good brush up of the filing status.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it took time. Like I'm not putting more information because some of you may not be, people come in the first session with a fresh mind that let me see what is there today. And in first class itself, if I start with that deep knowledge of taxation, you might get scared of coming to next session. So I'm just keeping first class small and crisp. But from next session onwards, we'll be going on the full-fledged 3 hours classes. Okay. Anybody else who want to add on something? We'll be stopping. So with this session will be stopped here, and please give me your feedback from the WhatsApp, as you all are connected with me on the WhatsApp. Provide me your feedback, and let's see in the next session. Okay. Hope to see you all in the next session.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am.
This is the right time to start with your part 1 preparation because August testing window is open. 2 months are there. We can all, prepare well for the 2 months and give the part 1 examination. Okay. So stay connected. Try to complete your part 1 by August itself.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Manushi.